The order of today's meeting will be under my direction. I'll introduce the staff and committee members. To my far right is Matthew Child. Bill. Oh. All right. Okay, to my far right is Matthew Child, committee member, then William Baker. Marcia Bhakta. To my left is Doreen Lester, Dan Sauve, staff members Laurie Chadwick, Ian Rollins, and Jake Morissette. All items on the agenda must be acknowledged by me prior to any discussion, presentation, or discussion. When I acknowledge you to speak, you can address me as chair. Please be advised all proceedings and decisions of this committee are undertaken without bias or conflict of interest. Any conflict of interest for members of the committee will be declared at the beginning of the meeting or prior to the application being heard. All members of the audience wishing to speak will be able to do so when acknowledged by myself in accordance with the published agenda. Each person is allowed 5 minutes. When invited to speak, please approach the podium at the back of the room. Turn the microphone on by pressing the button. Wait a second and a blue light will turn on. We ask the attendants to be respectful, only speak to the application at hand. Any topics that deviate from the application will not be considered or tolerated. And please note this meeting is being live streamed on the town YouTube page. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:01. And Ian, would you mind saying the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Chair. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial.
Any declaration of conflict of interest by the committee? Not seeing any. A motion to the published agenda for October 16th, 2024. Moved by Bill, seconded by Doreen. All in favor? All right. Good. And then committee of adjustment adoption of the minutes from August 20th. Moved by Doreen, seconded by Matthew. Anything to say? All in favor? Passed. All right, first application is A13-24. Ian, do you want to take it away?
Thank you, Chair. Next slide. Yeah. Can you do next slide? Yeah. Thank you. All right. On August 20th, 2024, the Committee of Adjustment heard minor variance application A13-24 for the property 322 Laird Avenue. The application was to construct a 2-story accessory structure with a total building height of 7.02 meters and a gross floor area of 178 square meters. A motion was made by the committee to approve the minor variance application as presented, with the condition that the 2 existing accessory structures located in the rear yard be removed. This motion failed, and no other motions were made regarding this application. This item is being brought back to the Committee of Adjustment as no formal decision via a supported motion was made. Next slide, please. Thank you. The original application requested relief from section 14.1B5 of the zoning bylaw, which limits the maximum building height of an accessory building to 1 story whereas the applicant was requesting 2 stories. And they were requesting relief from section 14.1B10, which limits the size of an accessory building to 70 square meters, whereas the applicant was requesting a gross floor area of 178 square meters. Next slide, please. Oh. One moment. There we go. As no decision was made, the application was instead treated as if deferred. Therefore, the applicant had the opportunity to amend their application and has provided a new site plan and rendering of an accessory structure. As this is a deferred item, the planning department has not assessed the amended application or circulated the application to all neighbors within 60 meters. However, the amended site plan has been circulated to all those who have expressed interest in the original application, such as internal and external agencies that showed interest, and members of the public who either provided written or oral presentation or had messaged us or attended the meeting. Next slide, please. Sorry. All right. This amended application only requires relief from section 14.1BX, which limits the size of the accessory building to 70 square meters, whereas the applicant is proposing 96.6 square meters. Next slide, please. So here I prepared a chart comparing the aspects of the original application and the amended application. Items highlighted in red require relief from the Committee of Adjustment. So I'll give a moment just so everyone can review this chart here. Okay. If needed, we can revisit the chart. Next slide, please. So from here, I'd like to detail the decisions that the committee can make today. The committee may approve the original application with or without conditions, or the committee may approve the amended application with or without conditions. The committee may defer the application. However, the committee must detail the reasonings to do so. And please note that if the committee defers the application for anything such as further circulation or so that planning can provide planning comments and more circulation, the applicant will have to submit an entirely new application. And lastly, the committee can deny the application. However, please note that if the committee denies the application, this denies both the original and the amended site plan. Additionally, this is a public meeting, therefore it is recommended that the chair recognize that the applicant and members of the public are present and should be invited to comment and speak to the application. Lastly, the planning department is recommending approval of the original application, subject to the condition that the 2 existing accessory structures be removed. Should the committee approve the amended application, then it is also recommended that the same condition be attached. Thank you.
Mr. Manning or Ms. Ross, do you have anything to add to the application?
Chair. No, I just, I guess, being that we've been allowed to bring it back as if it was pending and that we'd actually had the discussion the last time that we should have had, we're fine with just a single story. I'm asking for an extra 50 square feet because obviously I don't have a second floor and I'm trying to fit all my hobbies and my workshop in there. And although I don't have any letters, but the neighbor's still in favor. What else was I going to say? Oh, and I just wanted to say that I did have planning's approval, like they did support my application the last time, and I would assume with a single story that they would approve and support that as well from the people who work for the town. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, and I was going to say too that when we did have the discussion, the 2 gentlemen that sort of started the part where they didn't want to do it, it was all about the second floor. And I know that Matthew had said that he wasn't really concerned about the size. So that was one of the things that they had said. So that's why I brought it back this way.
Thank you. Anyone from the committee? Anyone from the public wanting to speak on this application? Go ahead.
Sean Conley, 319 Eiler Avenue. I'm two houses over from where he'd like to build structure. First of all, I don't know why we would change the limits to size. I mean, that's the way it is. You just don't change things that have been existing for, what, 20 years? Just because one person wants to change it. Secondly, I think we should refer this to council because we've got a flooding problem because people are building so close to our lot lines. Even if you were to move it, I mean, I don't know, 100 meters, 200 meters from our lot line, at least you're eliminating the future of flooding of our backyards. I'm flooding now from the two structures behind me. The last thing I need is somebody else to build that close to lot lines, so I get even more water. I'm just telling council this because if council doesn't do any action, and if you don't refer action to them, we're going to have a lot more flooding all along Eiler Avenue. And council's going to have to face the consequences because you're going to have a lot of pissed off people with flooded backyards. So I'm saying, first of all, I don't know why you would want to expand the area where he wants to build, which is ridiculous because it's not a house. And secondly, move him ahead so that at least he's not abutting our property line or, even farther so that we don't have any flooding. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead there, Doreen.
Chair, Mr. Rawlings, I have a question for you. Does he currently meet the setback from the lot line that's required by the municipality?
Through you, Chair, the amended site plan provides a setback of 7.5 meters, whereas an accessory structure under the zoning bylaw requires 1.2 meters. So yes.
Go ahead there, Matthew.
I had a related question. So that's the rear yard setback. What about the side yard? Is that consistent with the bylaw as well, the setback?
Yes, that is correct. This is the 1.25 meters is for both the side yard and the rear yard for an accessory structure. For the amended application, he is also at 1.2 meters from the side yard. So he still abides by that as well.
That'd be okay. All right, I'm looking for a motion. Okay, we'll do Doreen.
Amended application with conditions noted.
They're on that. Bill? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion passed on the amended. And you're able to leave now.
Thank you, Chair.
You stay for the end. All right. All right, the application A15-24, Town of Essex. Go ahead, Ian.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Our next application tonight is A1624 for the property 33 Talbot Street South, otherwise known as Town Hall. The property is located on the north side of Talbot Street South, just east of Arthur Avenue, and it's considered a through lot, having 77 meters of frontage along Talbot Street South and 101 meters of frontage along Irwin Avenue. Main access can also be found off of Irwin Avenue. The subject property currently contains the existing town hall facility, the associated parking area, several historical monuments and memorials, and a small accessory structure in the front, also known as a gazebo. The subject property is not located within the Essex Region Conservation Authority's limit of regulated area and does not contain any natural heritage features or items identified under the Ontario Heritage Act. The subject property is split designated community service facility and parks and open space under the Town of Essex official plan. And the subject property is also split zoned in institutional district 1.2 and commercial district 2.2 under the Town of Essex zoning bylaw. The applicants are proposing to construct, in addition to the existing town hall facilities, the proposed addition will be 2 stories in height with a total building height of approximately 7.49 meters and a building footprint of 528 square meters. Next slide, please. Due to the location of the expansion, relief from subsection 17.2B6 of the zoning bylaw is requested, as it requires a rear yard depth minimum of 7.5 meters from an exterior rear lot line. And this is specific to structures within the institutional I.12 district, whereas the addition will be located 1.48 meters from the exterior rear lot line. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the subject property is zoned institutional district 1.2 over the majority of the property, that being the white area that you see on the screen there, and commercial district 2.2 over the most northern portion of the property, which is the red area that you see. The proposed expansion straddles the border between the 2 different zoning districts. And when development is located over top 2 separate zoning districts, the regulations of the stricter district apply. The C2.2 district does not contain a rear yard setback minimum and would therefore be allowed, and therefore any structure would be allowed to develop up to the rear lot line. However, the institutional 1.2 district requires an exterior rear yard setback minimum of 7.5 meters. Being the stricter regulation between the 2 districts, the regulation for the rear yard setback minimum applies. Town hall facilities and other uses operated by the Town of Essex are permitted in any zoning district, so long as they meet the underlying zoning regulations. Therefore, the use of the property, being town hall facilities, is permitted in both districts. Next slide, please. So here we have the associated site plan detailing the expansion of the town hall facilities. I'm going to have you go to the next slide, please. And here we have it zoomed in a little bit closer so that we can see where relief is required. So with it, we have that little red area circled there. That is the closest point between where the expansion will take place and the rear lot line. With it, the other side of the building on the left-hand side is 1.68 meters away, so it gradually gets further away from that lot line, but not by much. Next slide, please. So here we also have the proposed floor plan with furniture so that you can see what the proposed uses are for the portion that expands into the rear yard, which is primarily used for office and administrative space. Next slide, please. Here we have the elevations detailing the existing and proposed facilities, identifying items such as materials used, windows, doorways, and openings. Next slide, please. And then here we have the site plan of the existing town hall footprint. You'll notice that smaller gray portion that's currently located beside town hall. That is where the expansion will be located, and that parking area will be moved elsewhere on the site to the left, closer to Arthur Avenue. Next slide, please. And then here we have some images of the site. First one being town hall. I believe we can all recognize that one. And with it, you have the area that the expansion is going to be taking place in. Next slide, please. Here we have another zoomed out image of the area that the expansion will take place. With it, it's currently used as a parking area. Yes, next slide, please. Just another angle of where it is located. You can also see how we border the residential area there on the other side of Irwin. Next slide, please. And then here you can see the sight lines of the where the existing town hall encroaches into that rear yard and where the expansion will then take place from, maintaining that same sight line. Next slide, please. And from here, the 4 tests provided by the Planning Act and the 2 tests provided by the official plan were undergone, and the application satisfies both criteria. The intent of the official plan is maintained as the expansion is deemed a wise use of available resources and provides for a compact pedestrian-oriented development. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained as the separation between public and private lands is maintained. No encroachment into utility corridors, no visual barriers are created, and existing sightlines are maintained. We've deemed this minor as the expansion does not encroach further into the required yard, and there are no anticipated impacts to the current and surrounding properties, such as drainage. Next, deemed appropriate as it reflects the setback of the existing town hall facilities, the neighboring church facility next door, which is 2 stories in height, and allows for a needed expansion without having to remove the memorial or historical items at the front yard. The character area is maintained as this is a transitional space from residential to commercial and institutional, and sightlines are maintained and parking is maintained as well. And lastly, this variance is needed as to accommodate the expansion of an existing facility already encroaching into a required exterior rear yard on a through lot. Next slide, please. The application was circulated to all internal and external agencies and property owners within 60 meters of the subject property. No comments or objections were received at this time. Next slide, please. And then here, just to remind the committee what they can make a decision on today, they can either approve the application with or without conditions. They can defer the application if you need more information, or you can deny the application, but you must state the reasoning. Lastly, the planning department is recommending approval and with no conditions attached. Thank you.
Yes. Jake, do you have anything to add to the presentation?
Thank you. Through the chair, my name is Jake Morrisuit. I'm the Director of Community Services, so I'll be the one overseeing this project for the town. Everything was pretty clear in there, but I'm here to answer any questions if the committee has any.
From the committee. Go ahead there, Bill.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Just more of a question of education for myself to Ian, the planner. What determines as a through property, what determines what is the front yard and the backyard? Because this is a through property. So what defines that?
Chair, a through property has frontage on 2 streets, but those streets do not, this isn't the proper wording, sorry. Frontage would be in the rear yard and the front yard. Whichever yard is smaller in size would be considered your front yard. So with the town hall facility, if you wanted to, Marcia, if you could bring up the site plan for town hall, that could assist in me explaining as well. Just bear with us just for one moment. Perfect. Actually go to the other one, that one, that works. Because you can see the streets for this one. So for a through lot, it has to border 2 streets, but it isn't a corner lot. So that street, 1 street's behind, 1 street's in front. And the way a front yard is determined is by which yard is smaller in size, or it's determined by the town. So in this case, the smaller yard, which would be our front yard, borders Talbot, whereas our bigger yard borders Irwin. So Irwin is considered our rear yard. Talbot is considered our front yard. And then for the institutional district itself, specific to that one, it explicitly states an exterior rear yard. Thank you.
Go ahead, Noreen.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Rowling, so you're just continuing a legal non-conforming use, right? You're not making it worse. You're not the setback, or not use, but setback. You're continuing the same. It's not getting any worse or, okay, thank you.
Exactly, yes, through you, Chair.
Go ahead there, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to the application because of the point that Doreen just raised. It's just, the encroachment is the same as the building we're seated in presently. So I noticed your report, and then it was on the slide, mentioned that there was no correspondence received from the public as of the 10th of October. Has there been anything in the last 6 days?
Chair, we have not received anything further.
have a couple questions. Looking at the thing, you're taking away some parking and moving the parking. How many people are we expected in this building? And are we gonna have the appropriate amount of parking for the people that will be? Who wants to answer that one? Lori does.
Mr. Chair, we did review the parking requirements as per the zoning bylaw, and the parking is actually determined based on square footage rather than occupancy. In this regard, the application before us does not require a variance in terms of parking. The site plan does show that all parking that is being proposed is required and meets the zoning bylaw.
Sure. Well, I was kind of wondering staff wise, right? Because if you're gonna put another 100 people in here and you got 60 lots. Like, I don't know if that makes, go ahead there, Jake.
So the existing lot that's back there is primarily used right now for staff parking. And then there's some vehicles that are parked up there. There are added parking spaces and there's approximately going to be 70-ish staff members that are going to be working out of the facility. So we have made sure that there is going to be sufficient parking with the architects as part of the project.
Everyone else good? Go ahead there.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for this, our specific development, we're required to provide 41 on-site parking spaces, which we do provide. Thank you.
All right, then anything, do you have anything from the audit? No? Anyone else? Okay, well, now I'm looking for a motion. Dan?
I'd like to make, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion with the administration requirements, approve the application.
Conditions that they suggest. Great. A seconder, Bill? All in favor? Motion passed. Right. And last but not least, since no one has to leave, oh, Jake's leaving. Application A1424, 1172 South Middle Road. Dan, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Chair. So tonight, this is our last application. This is B1724 for the property 1172 South Malden Road, located on the north side of South Malden Road, just east of County Road 11. The subject property is designated agriculture in the County of Essex and Town of Essex official plan and is zoned agriculture 1.1 in the Town of Essex zoning bylaw. The property is currently under agricultural production and contains one accessory structure that is not associated with the agricultural use, located near the front of the property behind a neighboring property with the address 1184 South Malden Road. The subject property is identified as having a significant natural heritage features and contains several municipal drains, such as the McLean Drain, the Kaya Drain, and the Geniac Drain, all located at the rear of the property, away from the lands to be severed and discussed tonight. The subject property is located within the Essex Region Conservation Authority's limit of regulated area, and the applicant is requesting to sever a 0.16 hectare parcel from the existing 19.38 hectare agricultural lot for the purpose of a lot addition. The severed lands will be consolidated with the adjacent property, 1184 South Malden Road, and the retained parcel, 1172 South Malden Road, will have a lot area of 19.22 hectares. The reasoning for the lot addition is to transfer the ownership of the existing accessory structure and the land around it from 1172 South Malden Road to 1184 South Malden. Next slide, please. So here we just have our GIS map detailing the proposed lot addition. Excuse me. And the lands in blue are the area to be added to the neighboring property, 1184 South Malden Road. Next slide, please. And here we also have the applicant's provided site plan. Next slide, please. So, right, one image didn't show up there somehow, but with it, this is just showing the use of the land as it is today, the area to be severed. One half of it has the accessory structure. The other half is just manicured. It's just a lawn, used as a lawn kind of area. Next slide, please. And then here we can see where the agricultural operation borders that of the non-agricultural operation, or the manicured area in that accessory structure, if you will. Next slide, please. And then here we have an image of the receiving lands, 1184th South Malden Road. And you can also see the accessory structure in the back there that utilizes the same driveway. Next slide, please. And then here, just for the purposes of the committee, this is the access. It is located a little further down on South Malden Road. And near the access is also a large solar panel. However, both remain untouched and unchanged because of the requested application. Next slide, please. Now for the policies that were considered for the consent application, the provincial policy statement and the County of Essex official plan both permit lot adjustments in the agricultural area for minor or technical reasons. This is viewed as minor since the lands are minimal in size and do not contain any agricultural operation or farmed areas entirely. The town official plan is satisfied as there will be no impacts to the farming operations and no lots will be created. The accessory structure on the severed lands will abide by the minimum setback requirements within the zoning bylaw, and the width for the agricultural property is maintained, same thing as lot coverage and such. However, relief is needed as the size of the agricultural lot is being reduced and is already beyond 100 acres or 20 hectares. Next slide, please. So here, as I had stated, as a result of the consent for the lot addition, the lot area for the retained parcel will be reduced from 19.38 hectares to 19.22 hectares. Therefore, relief is required from the zoning bylaw from section 13.1B2, which states that the minimum lot area is the lesser of 40 hectares or as existing. Next slide, please. Now, the 4 tests provided by the Planning Act and the 2 tests provided by the official plan were underway, and the application satisfies all criteria. The official plan is satisfied as there will be no impact to the existing agricultural area. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained as there will be no new lots created, and the proposed does not result in any type of fragmentation of the farmland. The proposal is minor as there will be no services to be rerouted, and the agricultural lands will not be touched. This is deemed appropriate as there is no impact to the farming operation, as I have stated, and the lands are currently utilized by the receiving lands at this time. No impacts to traffic and parking is anticipating, no accesses are changing, and there's no neighborhood character area to maintain, and there will be no visible change from the street level, so you won't see an actual physical change. Next slide, please. As per standard procedure, this application was circulated to all internal and external agencies and property owners within 60 meters of the subject property. No comments or objections were received at this time and such. Next slide, please. So for this, we have our standard conditions for a lot addition, such as the requirement of a survey, draft transfers, taxes are paid in full, drainage apportionments if needed, and confirmation that the parcels will merge, and the approval of the associated minor variance application. And as usual, the applicant has 2 years to fulfill all conditions. Next slide, please. So here's, again, here's the list of the options the committee has tonight. They can approve the application with or without conditions. They can defer the application if they need more information, or they can deny the application but must state their reasoning. The planning department is recommending approval subject to the detailed conditions. And additionally, I ask that the committee make a motion on each, the consent application and the minor variance application separately. Thank you.
Anything to add to the application? No. Okay. Anything from the committee? Go ahead there, Bill.
Here. Just a question to administration. 2 parts. Was this part of this, was 18 or 1184 a previous severance? Or was there a previous severance, I guess, on 1172? Number 1.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, it was not part of a previous severance.
Okay, so then my next question is, I guess, maybe to the Director of Development Services. How does a building get built on somebody else's property when it's not theirs? Is there some technicality that has to happen? Because this auxiliary structure is on 1172 right now, and it's being utilized by 1184. Was there some agreement? How does this work?
Mr. Chair, I might direct this to the applicant who can potentially give a bit of history about the property and the relationship, if that's okay, if they're comfortable.
Mr. Chair. Oh, Joe Grondin, I own 1172 Outback. My sister owns 1184 South Malden. Yeah, so what's that? So I own the back. My sister owns the front. Yeah, so I let her, we built this a few years ago, and I let her basically use the structure. And then now she, through different reasons, we're one of the liability insurance things that came up with the farm, we'd like to just clean it up and sever the 0.4 off and add it to her property is basically what we're trying to accomplish. So that answer the question?
I think so, yes. So you actually built this on your property?
Yeah.
For them?
Well, at the time, there wasn't like a formal agreement, like signed or anything, but we did let her use, like my sister and brother-in-law use it, and then they put the driveway in eventually and whatnot, and basically they're using it now, yeah.
And this 1184 has no relationship to you? It's just
Yeah,
an
it's my
agreement?
sister.
It's just, there you go. There's clarity.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I said that, yeah.
Took a long time to get there. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yep.
Other questions, Joel? No? Okay, any other questions? Looking for a motion? Bill?
Mr. Chair, to approve the motion with conditions?
Dan? All in favor? Approved? And thank you. Oh, and now for the variance, Doreen?
The minor variance application, as written with no conditions.
Seconder, Matthew? All in favor? Approved? And there you go. Now we're just looking for a motion to adjourn. Doreen and Dan. All good. Thank you.